give us a brief address while we declare this meeting open. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guests and fellow safety professionals. I'm honored to welcome you to today's WISE program, focused on strategic fire safety and emergency response management. As the president of ASSP Nigeria chapter, I'm thrilled to see so many dedicated professionals actually gather here today, though virtually. First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to our speaker and our organizers and our sponsors for making this event possible. Your contribution to the advancement of safety and health in our community is well appreciated. Today's topic actually is of most importance, as fire and safety emergency response management are very critical and very comprehensive safety strategy. So we will explore the latest best practices, technology as innovations in this field. And I'm confident that our discussions will be informative, engaging, and thought-provoking. As safety professionals, we recognize that our work goes beyond mere compliance with regulations. We strive to create a culture of safety where every individual feels empowered to take ownership of their safety and the safety of those around them. So I encourage you all to actively participate in today's discussion, share your experiences, and learn from one another. Let us work together to advance the safety profession and make our communities safer, healthier, and more resilient. Thank you once again for joining us, and I wish you a productive and enjoyable program. So I declare this open formally. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that short but very impactful speech, President. Thank you so much, sir. Before I call on our able moderator, just like our president said, it's imperative that we're discussing this topic at this time, strategic fire safety and emergency response. You will wonder why I would say at this time. We know that in Nigeria, we have the seasons, unlike the Western world where they have their seasons different from ours. This in the West Africa, Nigeria in particular, is the Harmattan season. And we know what is associated, the risks associated with Harmattan season. We know that during the season is when we have a lot of fire breaks due to the weather condition. We also know that the fire breaks is not just one remote fire break or fire incident, but we are talking about electrical fire. This is a time where a lot of cooking will be going on because we're coming to the end of the year where a lot of cooking, both the firewood, both the gas, both everything is going on. So we are also going to be looking at, this time around, we'll also be looking that there will be a lot of kitchen fire as well. And we know that because of the festive season we're going into, we're ebbing closely to December. We're talking about the Christmas, we're talking about the New Year and all of that. Will we also be looking at some electrical fire? All of these things are the reason why we thought it's necessary that we should talk about strategic fire safety and emergency response at this time. But anyways, I will not bore you with my limited knowledge on fire safety and emergency response. We have an expert that will do justice to that. And permit me at this point to introduce our able and beautiful moderator for today's webinar, one and only Bukinola. Buki, I don't know if you're here. Can you please take over from me? Thank you.
I'm here. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction and standing on existing protocols. It's good to see a lot of our colleagues here, in as much as we know that today is a Saturday and we'll be carried away with so many weekend activities, but it's good to be here again. So without taking so much of our time, let me just give a brief information on the profile of our speaker. Olani Olaiwola, a registered electrical engineer with Koren, is a dedicated and experienced professional in the field of quality health, safety, and sustainability. With over 15 years of extensive experience in implementing and auditing management systems across diverse sectors, including telecommunications, project management, and power distribution. He's a graduate of Electrical and Electronics Engineering from Ladoke Akintola University of Technology with an MBA in Sustainability from Nexford University. He holds certifications in ISO 9001:2015 Quality Management System, ISO 45001:2018 Occupational Health and Safety Management, and ISO 140, I think it's supposed to be ISO 40001:2015 Environmental Management System. As a passionate advocate for continuous education, Olani has been involved with social initiatives focused on sustainability, reflecting his commitment to the development of impactful solutions in areas like poverty reduction, climate action, waste management, zero hunger, and economic growth. He has extensive experience lecturing and sharing knowledge at different platforms, including QHSE's Leadership Academy, where he has trained hundreds of professionals and promoted a culture of safety and environmental responsibility and quality management. Olani's professional achievements include playing a key role in helping Ikeja Electric, the largest electricity distribution company in Nigeria, obtain ISO certifications without consultancy costs, saving the company over $30,000. He has led initiatives focused on sustainability, risk management, and incident reduction, and is adept at implementing management systems to drive operational efficiency and compliance. His role as a senior manager at Ikeja Electric saw him over strategic QHSE initiatives, cross-functional teams, and large-scale training programs that contributed to significant improvements in employee safety and community engagement. He is a proud Nigerian recognized for his strategic thinking, his ability to drive meaningful change, and his commitment to promoting health, safety, quality, and environmental sustainability across all his endeavors. So without much ado, can we give a round of applause to our speaker as we welcome him to the stage? Thank you.
Good morning, dear leaders, because I want to recognize my leaders here. Good morning, everyone. Dear colleagues, good morning. Our dear President, Engineer Tolu, good morning, sir. I recognize you. I recognize your usual leadership. And Professor Cynthia, I've met her at different conferences, and every time, she looks for a way to inspire us that are coming behind. We appreciate you, ma'am. We'll always look forward to learn from you. And me being here is also an opportunity to learn, and I'm glad and appreciate the invitation. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Thank you very much, Uju. Uju has been on my case like every minute for about 3 weeks, ensuring that even this morning, she said, hope you have opened your calendar. I said, Uju, I cannot miss this for the world. Thank you very much, Uju. Thank you, everyone. Dear colleagues, thank you so much. So I'd just quickly like to share my slide now. Please give me a minute. All right, so I've been invited to have a discussion on strategic fire safety and emergency response management. And truth be told, it is only important for us to always remind ourselves. I have no doubt at all that virtually everybody on this call, has mastered strategic fire safety and emergency response management. But like the professor has said, we need to always do this reminder so that when we enter this kind of season where everything is virtually dry, and we have historically, there's a trend of fire incident at this time of the year in Nigeria, by extension, across Africa. It's always important to do this reminder so that we'll cascade it to people around us, and especially those who live together, because as safety professionals, there's something I've observed, that we know all these things. But when it comes to going back home to cascade the knowledge to our immediate family, our spouses, our children, we don't do that enough. And we are forgetting that someday we may be the victim. So the knowledge that we've transferred is what is going to save us that day, and not the knowledge we have. So please, it's always important that when we, have an opportunity to come together on this kind of platform, whatever new things or whatever we are reminded about, let us go back home, cascade it to our immediate family, cascade to our neighbors, so that one day, even when we are not there, they are okay, they have the right knowledge to take care of themselves. So without much further ado, like one of my leaders will always say, the plane is about to take off. So let us fasten our seatbelts, and the plane is taking off now. All the time we are in the air sharing all these fire safety tips with ourselves. Let us relax. There won't be a lot of turbulence. I'm not sure if there won't be any, but by God's grace, we are going to land in the next few minutes or 1 hour. All right. So the basic areas we are going to look at today is the understanding of the concept of fire safety itself. We're going to look at fire extinction principles, how to fight fire, using strategic solutions and fire risk assessments. These are areas that this discussion is going to address. And we need to start by understanding some basic facts. One of the most recorded incident in history is fire outbreak. Either it happens because of poor weather, either in the workplace, either it's a bush wildfire, either it happens in our vehicles. Fire is fire, right? But there's something I always say, that you see, everything that we call hazard, it is our overdoing, if I may use that Nigerian language. When a Nigerian say you overdo, it is when we overdo that we cause all these things called hazard. We cause them to face us and cause injury, really. Hazards usually primarily are beneficial to us. I'm not sure there is many people on this call now that have not used fire today, primarily to cook and eat. So, it has its benefits. If you travel abroad, maybe when they have their winter, they have chimneys and all that. So fire somehow has its primary benefit, but it is when we step out of line with these things that they turn around and cause injury, they damage assets and all. So how do we ensure we keep fire as our slave, as our servant, and not make it to become the master, which is the bottom line of our discussion today? And of course, the World Life Expectancy Report of 2016 ranked Nigeria first in the world for number of deaths by fire. That is a wrong statistics, and we don't want to be on that side of history. So us taking these things seriously, when we are reminded of it, when we cascade it to our colleagues at work, when we cascade it within our community, we are gradually introducing means to reduce, our exposure, especially in being featured on this kind of statistics. So, but remember, whenever flammable are released, a fire is just a spark away. Whenever flammable materials are released, a fire incident is just a spark away. There have been incidents across the world. I mean, most recently in Nigeria, one of the most popular one that claimed so many lives and damaged so many properties in our recent history is the one that happened in Lagos in 2018 on Otedola Bridge, where a tanker fell and the content of the tanker spilled. And of course, there was traffic. Some people had their ignition on, the car engine was still running. But because a lot of people on that traffic, now they divided them into different categories. The first categories are the ones that don't even have an idea that what just happened with their ignition running can lead to serious disaster. That is the first category. The second category of people are those who understand what could, result as a result of the spillage, but they were trying to navigate and escape with their vehicles instead of abandoning the vehicle at that point, and taking off. So, I mean, it was a bad decision to make. It was not the most beautiful decision to make, but, like the former governor of Lagos State, Governor Fashola, said, may our loyalty never be tested. At that point, are you going to be loyal to your life or are you going to be loyal to your property? Your guess is as good as mine. If we have to sample opinions here. I mean, in 2020 as well, there was the explosion in Beirut, the ammonium nitrate explosion that claimed about 200 lives and injured about 6,000 people. So that tells you that fire itself is really, really dangerous. And it can come in form of fire and it can come in form of explosion, depending on how quickly energy is released. So you can have time when we are talking about fire incident, you have time to relax and do the right thing by saving yourself and the people around you. Because fire, when it starts, we say it starts from incipient stage. Incipient means that it starts very small. Fire will not start and consume the whole building immediately. As soon as it sees something to fuel it, it continues to grow. That is fire. Explosion, however, is a sudden burst of energy. So that does not leave you with much time to make any decision of escape. And it is even the more reason why prevention is more important in every case. When fire occurs, it can consume a whole property, building, it can consume vehicles. I mean, this time is a time where, or let me put it this way, in Nigeria, we have a lot of ethnic issues. You see Hausa fighting Igbo, Igbo fighting Hausa, Yoruba fighting this one, that one. It is when you see, I mean, you bear me witness, when you see a car on the express burning, that is when Nigerians unite most. You don't check if this person is Hausa or Yoruba or Efik or Ibibio. You don't check their ethnic group before you choose to stop your vehicle, remove your own fire extinguisher to go and help them. But do we really need to wait until when disaster occurs to unite? It is, that's on the sideway, a food for thought. And of course, fire can also occur from electricity. So how do we, let's even start from vehicle. Virtually all of us today, unless you are not going anywhere, you are going to stay at home. You are going to enter one vehicle, either your own or a public vehicle today if you must go anywhere, right? And if you are not going out today, you go out tomorrow. If you want to rest tomorrow, you go to work on Monday. So somehow we cannot escape being in a vehicle. So how do we prevent vehicle fire? I don't know what is happening. There is a mark showing on the screen. Okay, so somehow, how do we prevent vehicle fire? And please, let us take this seriously. If you own your own vehicle, it is very important to conduct regular inspection, on the tank, fuel tank. Your fuel tank may be leaking and you wouldn't know. So once in a while, when you take your vehicle for maintenance, some of us don't have the culture of that maintenance, you know, until we start seeing that something is going wrong. I think it is important that we take our vehicles for maintenance once in a while. And in addition to what the mechanic may check, we can also suggest, please, let me check this one, let me check that one. It is good for safety. Secondly, must ensure that all the added parts are installed correctly. So where the mechanic is installing new parts or new components on your vehicle, ensure that you use one that is competent enough to install correctly. One of the major causes of vehicle fire happens when you go for wiring, when it's a wiring problem. We always think that the major work is for the mechanics, and the wiring guys are just people who, please come and quickly help me do wiring. What is there in wiring? It is equally important. It is equally important. So your wiring system is the electrical system of your vehicle. When one cable is connected wrongly to another cable, it may lead to short circuiting, and it may lead to what will cause the fire to the vehicle to go in flames. So very important to ensure that you engage a competent mechanic, a competent automobile mechanic. Either is working on the wiring, is working on the mechanics of your vehicle, whichever way, ensure that he is competent. And of course, conduct periodic inspection and maintain the electrical system, functioning well. Never store flammable materials in your car. You may transport them from one point to another, but don't let flammable materials stay in your vehicle for too long. You see people, especially during what do you call a scarcity of fuel, you see people buying fuel, petrol in their vehicle, and they are not going straight home. They go somewhere, they park, they lock everything up and all that. It is not safe, it is not advisable. Because down the line in this engagement session we are having, we'll realize what are the things that will come together for fire to even start. And how are we so sure that those things will not be present, especially when you store flammable materials in your car, and when your ignition is running, the engine is running, heat is everywhere in the vehicle. It is very important to note this. So, and again, drive recklessly. When you are, don't drive recklessly. When you are driving, do not smoke in the car. Do not smoke in the car, because the cigarette can accidentally fall and that may start fire. Okay. And of course, look out for down power lines. It is very important to quickly discuss this, because we must recognize that all these our overhead power lines, they are also materials and they age. And it is not like there is a gauge on them to show that it is time to change this wire. The gauge will be showing no. All right. So usually maintenance can be reactive. Yes, maintenance happens all the time and all that. Maybe there's a scheduled maintenance, but sometimes you just realize that maybe as a result of over current that happens because of maybe the rain is about to fall, the cables due to wind, it's dancing all around. It can cause a short circuit, like different phases can touch each other or come close to each other, and there's going to be like an explosion, a loud spark. And you see, some of us may have experienced it. In this situation, if there's a joint where that happens, it can cut the overhead power line and it can come down. Yes, there are protection systems in place to address it. We also must understand that this protection system, like any other equipment, may develop any mechanical failure, right? So the protection system and maintenance is there to ensure that those mechanical failures do not happen and the electrical signals work the way they should. But mechanical problems happen. So the cables are supposed to, the moment they cut, the breaker somewhere is supposed to open so that electricity goes off on that line. But we see a situation where, the cables will drop on the road and electricity is still on it. That is because the protection system failed at that point in time. It is later they will start checking what failed. Why didn't electricity go off? But at that point in time, a dangerous and unsafe condition has been established, has been created. So as a road user, if you happen to be exposed to that, what should you do? Number one, you park your car under power line. It is not safe at all. So anywhere you are going and you are looking for a spot to park, if you look up and you see power line, it is a no-no to park your car under a power line. Let's now assume that you didn't know and you parked your car under the power line, right? And there's a wire cut and it falls on your vehicle. Unfortunately, maybe you are still in the vehicle. The first thing you need to do is to shut down your ignition. Shut down your ignition. That's turn off the engine with your key and stay in the car. Now, at that point in time, there's something we call step and touch potential. Okay, so the body of your vehicle is metal, no doubt, and a cable with electricity is touching that same body. We know metal conduct electricity. So any attempt to exit the vehicle at that point, if your hand touches the body of that vehicle, which is already conducting electricity, that person is most likely going to be electrocuted, not receive electric shock. There's a difference. You can receive electric shock, you receive shock. When you are electrocuted, it means somebody who is exposed to electricity has died as a result of that exposure. So I'm saying that if that happens in the process of opening the car to come out and your hand touches the body of your vehicle, the metallic part that is already conducting electricity, it can result in electrocution. So what should you do? Now, if you are bold enough, you can still come out of that vehicle with your 2 feet together. So when you are stepping on the ground, your 2 feet will be touching the ground together. When you stand like you are reciting national anthem, you stand at attention. So your 2 feet must come together and step on the floor at the same time. So the moment you step down, you stand up without touching the body of the vehicle and you begin to hop away, right? Now, that is if you are in immediate danger. If you are in immediate danger of maybe the car is going to catch fire or whatever, that is when that is advisable. But ordinarily, you are supposed to stay in that vehicle. If you observe that your vehicle is insulated, the dashboard is not metal, the inner padding of your door is not metal, even the door handle, the knob that you are going to use to open your car on the inside is plastic. So all these are insulated. The chair you are sitting on is an insulation. So you stay in the car and try and reach out to somebody for help. Maybe they can reach out to the power company to isolate on emergency. So always look out for down power lines when you are using your vehicle. And of course, you need to maintain your battery because almost all the time when a car catches fire, the battery contributes greatly to that fire. So very, very important. And of course, if there is any spill, try and clean them up for environmental reasons or mop them up. So how do I respond when a car has caught fire? Okay, the first thing you are going to see usually is that smoke will start coming out of the vehicle or from the bonnet area. That's the first thing you are going to see. The moment you see that, wherever you are, park safely and turn off your ignition. The moment you see that, wherever you are, park safely and turn off your engine ignition. Do not panic. Remain calm. Usually when you panic, what follows are wrong decisions. What follows are hasty decisions that even endangers you more. So you need to find a safe way to park immediately, turn off your engine, leave the vehicle quickly, don't stay inside. Now, if in the process of you coming out of the vehicle, the fire starts eventually, don't return to a burning vehicle. Some people will in a haste try to quickly go and open their bonnets. You see, when you do that, it has we have seen over time that your radiator may have burst or is waiting for you to open the bonnet so that the hot water can spill. You see, when you do that, you are even endangering yourself. So if you have a way to open your bonnet without exposing yourself and going close, go ahead and do it so that at least You can see where if you pick your fire extinguisher, you can directly face it at, at the burning area inside the engine. Okay, you can also call fire service if you cannot handle it. And please do not stand close to the car. The reason why I said this, do not stand close to the car, especially when the fire has started, is that you have a fuel tank in that car. Inside that fuel tank is either petrol or diesel, and fire has started, and that fire is being fueled by the heat and the petrol in that fuel tank and all, and it is only a matter of time when it is going to have access to more of this fuel for an explosion to happen. So when you are too close to a burning vehicle, when the explosion occurs, you are already exposed. So please, let us always, remember this. And of course, more facts, the thing we call cancer is that when cancer occurs, or when, somebody is afflicted with it, it continues to grow and grow and grow until there's a grace from God, or until somebody becomes lucky and all that. So fire is like that as well. The moment fire starts, as soon as it continues to see what to fuel it, it continues to grow and grow and grow, right? So I always say that fire is like cancer as well. So, which is why we need to be aware of the things around us. We need to be aware of, our housekeeping practices. So you have a place where you have a lot of papers. Those papers are not properly kept in a cabinet. When fire starts, those are the papers that are going to fuel the fire. So proper housekeeping is a way to equally prevent fire from occurring. Okay. So, and until you find a way to stop fire, like gravity, it goes up and it does not come down until you find a way to stop it. All right. So, but the good news here is that it is preventable. We all know that fire is preventable, and we need to focus on that prevention. But as safety professionals as well, we don't only focus on prevention. What we also do is to have the knowledge of what to do in the event that prevention fails. And then we have to face the reality of having to fight the fire. Okay, so fire itself is defined as a rapid chemical reaction that occurs when you have three things come together: fuel, oxygen, and a source of ignition. Some people will refer to that source of ignition as heat, but it is not the heat that makes you an ice sweat. It is heat at the ignition temperature. Okay, so when these three things come together, fire burns. When they come together, fire burns. And I always say that the moment you know what the problem is, you have 50% identify what the solutions are. So because we know those things that must come together for fire to burn, we also have, a way forward in ensuring that we prevent or arrest fire. So what are the effects of fire? Number one, fire affects the people as a result of injury. It can lead to death. Fire can affect the environment, environmental pollution from the greenhouse gases that are generated as a result of, fire occurring. It can damage property. It can affect reputation in your organization. Maybe in January, there was fire incident. In March, again, there was fire. In August, there was fire. When you publish vacancy for a role, it will be difficult for people to apply sometimes because they will think that, there's a relative of Shango or Amadioha inside that company. And in their mind, they are thinking, I cannot go to this company where fire burns every time. And the way the internet works, when you have all these incidents and somebody is trying to Google about your company, it will bring out the bad news before you see the good news. So your company collects an award yesterday, and last week there was fire incident. You will see fire incident in AXY Limited before you now see the award they collected. So very important to always recognize that our reputation, you cannot buy reputation with money in any organization. So you need to keep fire prevented so that, when it happens, it does not affect your brand and your reputation. And the thing is this: when fire starts or fire occurs, usually where there are casualties, where people die, you realize that it is not the fire that killed that person. I repeat, there's been an incident of fire and there's a casualty that has led to death. Somebody has died as a result of that incident. When you investigate, you see that it is not the fire that killed the person. Yes, fire may eventually, expand and expand to the point where the person is and eventually burn the person. But you realize that when they are, what is this that the doctors do? I've forgotten the name now. They will see that there are in the lungs of that victim, there are smoke. So what that tells you is that smoke itself is usually more dangerous than the fire because it travels faster than fire. Fire may still be in one room, but the smoke is already everywhere. And if you inhale the smoke, it can cause asphyxiation. All right. Asphyxiation means that oxygen stops reaching the brain. And at that point, experts tell us it takes between 6 to 10 minutes for somebody to die, not faint, not go unconscious, to die. That means the brain has stopped receiving oxygen. Okay. So when that happens, somebody becomes, just slumps and becomes unconscious. Where people panic, you don't stop to, rescue this kind of person, especially when you don't even know that they are in one room or one office where the person has become unconscious or has slumped. So nobody rescues them and they continue to take in this smoke until they die. And eventually the fire, if it escalates, will now burn this kind of person and we say it is fire that killed him. We need to recognize that smoke travels faster than fire, and understanding what to do in that situation is also very key in ensuring our safety. It can, depending on what is burning, imagine if there's a fire incident in a place and the table there is burning. Compare the kind of smoke that will come out of that table to the smoke that will come out of the room where mattress is burning, right? Where the bed. Okay, there was a back feed for a second there. So the kind of smoke that will come out of a mattress that is burning is more toxic than what will come out of your table. Okay, so it can also lead to poisoning because you are going to be inhaling some chemicals as you are inhaling smoke with when certain materials burn because of the way they were manufactured using chemical components. So you don't want to be exposed to that at all. Lung failure can occur, accidental fall, especially where people are so desperate not to die, and let's imagine a 4-story building, you got into the 3rd floor, 2nd floor, and you are thinking this fire is on the ground floor. How am I going to escape? So you remember a James Bond movie, and then you just decided to jump. You just look down the window and you saw there's a Jeep parked, and you felt that if I jump and I land on this Jeep, nothing is going to happen to me because you see it in the movies all the time. Please don't risk it because it can lead to fracture. It can lead to spinal rupture. It can lead to a lot of things, especially if you land badly. Okay, so do not panic because panic leads to, like I said earlier, making the wrong decisions. You can jump from height and you can, even be injured as a result. So it's always good to have warning signages, have escape routes, emergency exits in the building, ensure that the emergency exit doors are not locked, and all that. So it's very important to be aware of all this. So fire, today is the time of sustainability. And we all know that sustainability has 3 dynamics. Sustainability has a social dynamic, has an economic dynamic, the environmental dynamic, is why they call it the 3 Ps: the people, the profit, and the planet. Okay, but fire has impact on all these dynamics of sustainability. For example, socially, fire can affect a community. Imagine there was a time at Olusosun dump site about 3, 4, 5 years ago when there was fire burning inside the dump site, and it was difficult for Lagos State government to put out this fire, and smoke and soot were coming out of the place. The people living around that place, going to Billings Way, going to Ojota, people were vacating their homes because they were tired of inhaling this toxic substance that was coming out of the Olusosun side. The smell when you drive by is enough. You now have to inhale smoke coming out of the place. So you see, it has affected our community socially. People were being forced to leave their homes and to go and squat with other people. Very important to realize the impact on social dynamic. Of course, economic. Fire will damage property. Fire will affect data. Fire will, it has killed people as well. So a lot of revenue has been lost as a result of fire happening. And environmentally, the gas that is coming, these are greenhouse gases, of course. And the concept of environmental sustainability is to reduce greenhouse gases, but fire will help you to increase it. So fire is not is not friendly where we are trying to achieve sustainability. So what are the major causes of fire? Basically, ignorance and negligence. I don't know and I don't care to know. I know and I don't think it is important to practice. Those are the major causes of fire. Then we have the works of nature. But if you investigate the works of nature even deeply, you see that humans have a hand in the occurrence. And arson is also a way for fire to happen when you criminally, intentionally set a property on fire, either to hide secrets or to cover up anything, is what is called arson. It is a criminal offense under the law. The storage of petroleum resources, fire can start from electricity. So these are usually the causes of fire. And it's important to have signages. You can have no smoking signage. That means you are communicating your policy in your organization that you cannot play around with naked fire and you cannot smoke freely around here. So usually organizations have dedicated places. They call it the smoking area where people can go to smoke so that when they finish smoking, dispose the cigarettes safely, they can come back to the working area and work. Okay, and in such smoking area, you see that there is provision for firefighting and everything very close to the place in case there is fire. So now, fire extinction strategies. Like I said earlier, the moment you know the problem, the solution is 50% guaranteed. So we have said that these 3 elements must come together: fuel or components, fuel, oxygen, and heat at ignition temperature or a source of spark. Okay, so when they come together is when fire burns. But every fire extinguisher that has been manufactured, their content has been directed at ensuring that these 3 components do not come together. If you look at your CO2 fire extinguisher, number 1, when you introduce carbon dioxide to oxygen, it displaces oxygen. And remember, oxygen is one of the components that causes fire to burn. So your CO2 fire extinguisher does that. It displaces oxygen. That is one. Secondly, it is very cold. If you have ever been exposed to the CO2 gas inside the canister of a CO2 fire extinguisher, it is very cold. So that CO2 is doing 2 things. Number 1, it is introducing cooling, which affects the heat component, and 2, it is displacing oxygen. We call it the smothering method. And of course, you can also starve the fuel. So when we say fuel, we are not only referring to the kerosene or petrol or diesel. No, we are also looking at everything that can aid the fire to burn, either plastic or wood or piece of clothing or paper. These are fuel to fire. So how can you separate those things from the fire to ensure that the fire does not continue? Okay, so Fire management strategies, we always say this is the 4 E's. Number 1 is engineering. So when you install, for example, you have a server room, you install FM200 because you know a server room is always very cold. And because it is always very cold, usually companies don't put somebody inside the server room because of for health reasons. You cannot be exposed to a cold weather. So you stay outside, or your office is usually outside the server room, but you'll be able to see the server room. But because there is no human presence there, what happens is if fire is going to start, especially when nobody is looking, fire will start and consume your data because you are keeping your data, or your data storage is what you do in your server room. So what happens is you need an automatic fire suppression system like FM200 in that your server room. So that is an engineering approach to fighting fire. So the moment the FM200 senses smoke, it discharges. All right, so that is an engineering approach. Installation of your smoke detector, your fire alarm system, these are engineering solutions to fire. Education, which is what we are doing now, is the next one. You know, sharing knowledge, reminding ourselves on how to prevent fire and all that, or to arrest it. That is education. Enforcement is when you have the policy and you have communicated the policy to everybody within the organization, within your home, and then somebody now does something that violates that policy. For example, you have a no smoking policy and somebody is smoking cigarettes. You need to enforce your consequence management system at that point in time, or you need to enforce your policy. So you come up with, okay, because you have violated our policy, this is the consequence, and of course, encouragement. Where you see people, because you are, I mean, punishing people anyway when they violate the policy. So why not encourage them and reward them when they are compliant, you know, with the policy? So these are the 4 E's and the strategies of managing fire. In Lagos State, the emergency number is 767. In Nigeria, it is 112. But I mean, some people will say it works. Some people will say it does not work. I have tried it before that it did not work, and I have tried it before that it worked. Okay, so this is what I always tell people, because usually when I do a training like this, people will say, no, it doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. But I always say that, yes, I have tried it before, it does not work. And I have tried it before that it worked, and within 5 minutes, they arrived. So I guess we cannot close our eyes. We need to try. Don't say that it doesn't work and you don't try. You never know. So this is very, very key. And of course, when you are trapped in a place where there's smoke everywhere, it's always important to remember that smoke is carbon dispersed in air. That is what smoke is, carbon dispersed in air. So it will always suspend. So what it means is that smoke is not heavy. It will always suspend in air. And when it suspends in air, it is within your neck region to your head region. So all you need to do to escape is to go below the suspension of the smoke, maybe crawl out of the building, okay? Crawl out of the building. And this is why all these reflective signages are also good. Where the fire has knocked out electricity and there's no lighting, your photoluminescent signages can now, you know, be obvious, so you can see where the emergency exit is, and you can crawl towards it out of the building to the muster point. So very important to also mention this. This is not what you want at all. And we always talk about our portable fire extinguishers. You see, when the fire has escalated like this, your portable fire extinguisher is not useful. It is useless at that point. Before the fire becomes escalated like this is when your portable fire extinguisher is useful. At the incipient stage of fire, when it is still small, when you can still manage it. The moment it has become like this, it is fire service you have to call, and that is why it is important to have that emergency number. Now, we have different types of fire extinguishers, you know. Usually we identify them by the labeling on the body, by color coding, by how the nozzle looks like and all that. So we have different ways to identify the fire extinguishers. We have the powder, dry chemical powder, which is the DCP. We have wet chemical, you have water, you have foam, you have CO2 and all that. So the automatic fire extinguisher is not only FM200 alone. There's StartX. There are different brands, you know, that you can install. Especially you can have a StartX where you have limitation of space. StartX is quite small and, you know, it will serve the purpose. So, but when you have space, nothing stops you from installing FM200. You have Fireball. Fireball is the size of a volleyball, but the covering, the synthetic covering is light to the point that if it is in close proximity to flame, it's going to rupture it, and the content, which is powder, is going to spill and cover whatever is aiding the fire to burn. It's a form of smothering method, because it forms a blanket over what is aiding your fire to burn and stops oxygen, you know, from gaining access. So that's what Fireball does. There's fire buckets. When you go to filling stations, you see this. So classes of fire, according to NFPA, National Fire Protection Association in the United States, they have, you know, these classes of fire. Class A, which are the common combustible, your wood, paper, clothing, and Class B, which is flammable liquids and gases. Class C is electricity. And see, I always say this. Usually when we see fire, when I have this kind of discussion, I like to be realistic as much as possible. Usually when fire starts, it is in very few cases that you will see what started the fire. Usually just walk in and see the fire has started or something. At that point, it's not the best time to start saying, is this a Class A fire or Class B or Class C and all that? No. You can know that if the fire started right in your eyes, in front of you, you know what started the fire. But of course, you can also guess. For example, I'm taking this session from an office. In that office, I don't have any stored flammable material. Like, I don't have any petrol stored. I don't have diesel stored. So I know that if a fire starts here where I am, it is not a Class B fire, right? I'm not in the kitchen, so it is not a Class B fire. I don't have a cooking gas here. But it can be a Class A fire, and it can be a C fire, which is electricity, okay? But guess what? Any class of fire, always assume a Class C is involved. Any class of fire, I repeat, always assume that Class C fire is already involved. Because the fire has started, you don't know if it has started to melt a cable, an electrical cable. And you know how those cables work. There's a live and a neutral that should never come together, you know. So when they are exposed to heat, the insulation, the rubber covering the copper, the metal inside that is carrying the electricity, melts off. And when they melt off, what happens? The cables touch. We call it short circuiting in electrical engineering. The cables touch, and before you know it, everywhere begins to spark. Everywhere begins to shock. So it is important to assume that electricity is already, you know, a part of that fire. And the moment you know that, you will not start using water. Yes, water is allowed to fight a Class A fire. Theoretically. Realistically, should you use that water, especially when you don't know if electricity is already, you know, playing a part in that incident? The answer is no. And that is why, instead of using water for a Class A fire, as a matter of fact, water is the best for a Class A fire. But instead of using the water, because, you know, it can also cause another problem, especially where electricity is already involved, and knowing that water is a good conductor of electricity, do not use water, rather use dry chemical powder to fight it. Okay, now the idea is that if you use CO2, it most likely will not be effective, because CO2 is displacing oxygen, and the moment it displaces oxygen and oxygen is abundant in the atmosphere, oxygen will be reintroduced in the fire and it will start again. That is why CO2 is not the best for a class A fire. But of course, dry chemical powder you can use instead of water. Water can also work, but because of that electricity, use a dry chemical powder. So for a class B fire, can have a cooking gas explosion. And let me quickly say this. I mean, this is something that happens all the time. Somebody is cooking with the gas in the kitchen, there's an explosion that happens. Please, if you can, and even if you can't, if you can try, do not let your gas be inside the kitchen. Please run it to be outside. There's a way you can do it. Run it outside, let the cylinder be outside, and you just be cooking inside the kitchen. Please, if you can, it is the safest way. It is the safest way. Right. Now, let's assume that we do it the way many people do it. The cylinder is inside the kitchen, and you come in and then you begin to perceive the odor of gas. You know, what many of us will do is to quickly rush the kitchen, open the door, especially where there is no light, put on the light so that you can see, and you know, there's going to be an explosion. And some people will say, no, the phone rang when she's in the kitchen. It's because she made a call in the kitchen. Please, let me quickly explain this. Now, what you should do when you begin to perceive that gas is to go into the kitchen, open your door gently. Please do not hastily open the door. Open your door gently. Now, when you open that door, go straight to your window and open it gently. Let ventilation come in and diffuse the gas that is already there in the atmosphere. Let ventilation come in and diffuse it. Then if you can trace where the gas is leaking from, maybe you forgot to turn off the gas, you gently turn it off and exit the kitchen. Now, remember, 3 components must come together for fire to burn. Number 1 is fuel, the gas that is leaking. Number 2 is what? Number 2 is oxygen. Oxygen is abundant in your kitchen. Number 3 is a source of ignition. Now, that spark can come from you opening the kitchen door. The mechanism of your door handle can generate a spark, mind you, that is 1. Now, if the light is off, electricity lighting is off, the switch that you want to turn on to put on the electricity so that you can see properly, in the mechanism of your switch, we call it a gang mechanism. It can generate what we call arcing. That arcing is like a spark. If the spark happens and you already have fuel, you already have oxygen, that may be what will cause the explosion. So that is why gently open the kitchen door. Do not rush in. Go inside the kitchen. Don't put on the light. If you have a torch light at that point, it is what you should use. It is what you should use. Go to the window, open it, let air come in and diffuse the gas. Turn off your gas and please exit the kitchen. This is what is advisable for us to do in terms of kitchen fire. Now, the aspect of phone, you'll say phone call. As of today, no research has established that phone call has a bearing on an explosion. However, as safety professionals, we always like to tread on the side of caution so that they will not use our case to establish the fact that yes, phone can now cause gas or phone can cause filling station explosion. So that is why when you go to a filling station or when you go to any fuel station, you go to Apapa, these companies in Apapa, if you go to their storage facility, you see there's a point you get, they tell you cannot take your phone beyond here. You know, it is still all caution, right? So it's very important to comply when you have to. You go to a filling station, you see a signage that tells you do not make phone call. Please don't make it. Some people will say, no, there's no scientific fact to say that phone call can... No, don't do that. They have a right to walk you out of their filling station, mind you. So always tread on the side of caution as safety professionals. That is in our DNA. Caution is key. Caution is key. Don't increase the risk of anything unnecessarily. Okay, so now always remember, like I said, prevention is the best solution. So here are some facts. For ordinary combustible, which is class A fire, what you should do is to keep all areas free of waste and trash. A very good housekeeping will help reduce the risk of a class A fire. Now, be careful while smoking or using other type of open flame. If you must, you have to be cautious while you are using it. Now, for a class B fire, which is flammable combustible material, store all flammable liquids in tight closed containers, and store them where there is ventilation. Store them where there is ventilation. Some of us will keep your generator is running and generating heat, and then you still place your keg of petrol right beside that same generator. You can easily start fire. You can start fire. So store your flammable liquids away from sources of heat or spark. Only use flammable liquids in well-ventilated areas. Never refuel equipment when it is hot. Please don't let your Arsenal or Chelsea match be more important than your life, because you are using generator to watch football, and the generator is about to go off, and you don't want to miss any part of the match. And that is why you have refueling the generator while it is working. Please let us not do it. It has led to a lot of accidents. It has killed a lot of people because an explosion will happen there, and the guy refueling is very exposed. Okay, please do not do that. And of course, never smoke around flammable materials, because the dust of your smoke, if you have ever seen smokers, when you see their clothes, you start seeing holes on their clothes. It is the dust, it is the particles from the smoke. When it falls on the clothes, it makes a hole there immediately. And that tells you, imagine if it drops on papers or waste that can cause fire. Fire will just start from there. So very important. For a class C fire, if you see any electrical hazard, report them. If you cannot correct at that point, escalate to the people that will correct. Look for old or faulty wiring, worn out insulation, or broken electrical fittings. Escalate or correct. Keep all your electrical motors clean and in good working order. Avoid overheating or overloading of electrical circuits. Many of us today, we have extension cord in our homes, in our offices. And some of us, this one will plug his laptop there, that one will plug something, somebody is charging phone. Maybe there are 5 outlets on that extension. We use 4. The 5th one, you now put an adapter again that has different faces. You now begin to expand and expand. Please, when you do that, you are overloading that extension socket. You are loading. Imagine if, as a human being, you have the power to carry something of 30 kg, and somebody now doubles that weight, 60 kg, and asks you to carry it. You are going to break, right? That you are going to fall under the weight of that load. It is the same thing with electricity. When you overload a circuit that is designed to carry a load of lower capacity, what you are doing is the tiredness of that electrical circuit, how it demonstrates it or how it shows it is that it's going to break down. The cables will begin to melt. So when you see extension cords showing melt on the entry of your plug, it's because you are beginning to overload it. Okay, so some of us will now start seeing like it's burning. You start seeing smoke coming out of it. If you are not careful, the time you are not looking, that smoke becomes fire. If you are not there, that fire begins to catch the tables and chairs. Before you know it, everywhere is down in smoke, or there's an inferno. So very important to always know this. Do not overload electrical circuits and outlet. Now, which one of these things am I supposed to use? Each class of fire requires a specific type of fire extinguisher, and in some cases, using the wrong type will escalate the situation. So imagine a water type, like I said earlier, you are using it without knowing electricity is involved. That water will conduct electricity, and anybody that steps on it does what? They receive electric shock. Or they become electrocuted. So sometimes when you use the wrong type of fire extinguisher, you are even escalating the problem. So I believe that we all know, how to distinguish fire extinguishers one from the other. You know from their data plate. Sometimes it is the color, sometimes it is the type of nozzle they have, and so on and so forth. Because of time, that is just how to identify fire extinguisher. For example, black is for carbon dioxide, blue is for dry chemical powder, red is for water, and so on and so forth. So when you see frayed extension cord, please replace. When there's voltage fluctuation, please shut down your electricity. Okay, if you have a split AC, use what we call AVS, automatic voltage switcher. It's a small box installed beside the AC. It regulates the voltage of your AC. Now, there are some split AC that they make these days, for sustainability reasons. They work with very low voltage. So internally, they have their own regulator. Okay, but for those old ones, if those are still the ones that you are using, you need to have an automatic voltage switcher installed beside it. It's a very small box. I'm sure we would have seen it before. When you overload circuit, fire can happen from electricity. Now, electrical work should only be done by competent people. Don't bring any Tom, Dick, or Harry to come and work on your electricity at home. You must recognize that they are competent before they come. Because if they are not competent and they bridge a live and a neutral out of their ignorance, that can lead to fire. And guess what? They may do the work when there's no light. It is when there is light, you now see the fire starts. Okay, so please, very important to note. Maintenance of your electrical installation once in a while is very important. Okay, there's what we call electricity audit. You check, sometimes, we need to go home today and see if you have an earthing system installed for your home. Because if you don't, you just realize that one day you are washing the plates in the kitchen and your sink begins to shock you, or your railings at the balcony begins to shock. That tells you that there's a ground fault in your home, but your earthing system is non-existent or has failed. Because if it is working, you shouldn't be feeling those shock. All those excess current would have been diverted to the head. So please, let us not overlook the place of earthing system. When you get home, look for a competent electrician to come and check your home. We know offices usually have all these things installed, lightning arrays and the likes, but home is also as important as the office. That is where we keep our families. Okay, so if you don't have earthing system, please get one. And I must say this, please, in any environment, in your communities, something is happening today. You see that your transformers are now being vandalized. The earthing cables, all these scavengers that you see sack across their neck, these are the things they are vandalizing. Your earthing cables on your transformer, they are vandalizing it. They come in during the day as if they are just passing by when people have gone out to work and things like that. When they vandalize this earthing cable, any small high current will enter your home. That is the reality. Any small high current or any irregular AC current will come directly into the home. Now, if you have your own earthing system at home, it will arrest it. It will not come into your circuit, if you understand. So this is even more reason why your earthing system at home is very important. I've seen a situation where the earthing system of the transformer that feeds an area was vandalized. Excess current came into the home because our home did not have its own earthing as expected, and the whole place burnt down. This is so beyond our socket at home. These are also ways that electrical fire can occur. So please let us keep this in mind. So prevention of fire, saves our lives, saves our job, help us to save money, saves our community. And of course, there has to be pragmatic solutions. Like we always say, prevention is the best medicine, and we cannot wait until we have cure. If we prevent, we don't necessarily need the cure. So preparedness is key to survival. So it's always important to conduct a fire risk assessment. Okay, now you need to identify and eliminate any sources of ignition around you, any sources of spark. So when you have exposed cable, when you have, frayed cords around your connection, around your appliances, replace them. Okay, so that is one of the hazards that can lead to electrical fire. Okay, and ensure proper maintenance and inspection, because if you do it, it can reduce the risk of your exposure. Number 2 is to control and manage combustible material. Good housekeeping, careful management of materials that can ignite. Instead of dumping everything in the office, you have the same trash bin for everything. It's sometimes when you do waste segmentation, it helps to prevent fire, because those e-waste or combustible material will be stored separately from every other waste, and safe handling and storage of flammable materials can also help. And the third one is in your installation and maintenance of fire detection system. Please, if we don't have this in the office, let us have it. If we have this and we have not done maintenance of it in a while, please let us carry out the maintenance, because these are the things that can alert you, in case of fire. And of course, our evacuation system. If you work in an office of different floors, it's always good at every floor to have a map for evacuation. Let people know the location where they are with respect to the emergency exit, so that when there's fire, even if you're a visitor visiting a building, you know how to find your way around so that you can come out safely. Very important. And of course, emergency preparedness and response, you need to develop a response plan for your environment, for your office building. Let people be aware, communicate it, test it, using regular drills. Sometimes you can even combine fire and medical drill, because you know that when there's fire, somebody may have inhaled smoke, and the person may go unconscious. And if the person is not breathing, you need to commence CPR. So these are things that you need to integrate into your fire drill. What if this happens? Let somebody just form or feign fainting, right? And let us see the reaction of the people. We have done it before, and the reaction of the employees of that organization were very poor. They ran away. They were just shouting, Jesus, oh my God. They did not immediately take a step to revive this person, with CPR. So you can also integrate it into your fire drill so that you see how people will react, and then you educate them on what to do in case it happens in reality. Now, when fire occurs, we have an acronym we refer to as RAISE. R there means rescue. So if there's somebody who requires rescue, you need to rescue them. For example, you have somebody who is heavily pregnant, and that same person needs to evacuate a building, you need to support them. You have somebody who has become unconscious, you need to help them, rescue them so that they don't eventually die. So when you can rescue and it doesn't in danger, please go ahead and do it. Then A is alert. If you don't have a system that will raise the alarm, like your fire alarm system, use your voice to shout fire and alert others so that people can know that they need to evacuate their emergency response planning, evacuation plan. And of course, the C is to contain fire. So the fire will always start small if it is not an explosion. So if you cannot fight it, at least close the doors and the windows when you are evacuating. So what happens is that you are limiting the inflow of oxygen into that office that will help the fire to keep burning. So if the fire has used up the available oxygen, then it immediately turns into smoke. And of course, E there is to extinguish if you know how to use a fire extinguisher, or evacuate if you don't. If you don't know how to use a fire extinguisher, your E means evacuation. Go out to the muster point. If you know how to use a fire extinguisher, your E means extinguish. Okay, so this is what we refer to as RACE. It's an acronym. And of course, you also have your fire emergency procedure. Let people be aware, you know, if you are the one that identifies the fire, raise alarm. Call, I mean, if it's a big fire that you cannot fight on your own, call the fire, Lagos State Fire Service or whatever state where you are, call the fire service, and of course, fight the fire if you can. On hearing the fire alarm, please. I've seen some people when they heard fire alarm, the woman had already gotten to the muster point before she realized that she was charging her new iPhone. I tell you, she ran back into the building to the first floor to get that phone, right? So please do not go back to pick personal belongings. Now, let me break a myth for you. Some people always think that when we say do not pick personal belongings, what we are truly saying is do not go back to pick your belongings. If you are sitting at your table and you hear the fire alarm, no police will arrest you for carrying your laptop. No police will arrest you for taking your bag, because you are right there where these things are. However, if your personal belongings will impede your evacuation, leave it. If it's going to affect the evacuation of others, leave it. If it's just my bag and my laptop, I carry my thing and I go to the muster point, right? Nobody will arrest you for it. But if you are not at your desk, you are on the first floor, but your office is on the second floor, we are saying do not go back to the second floor to pick your personal belongings. Instead, go to the muster points where you are going to be safe. So do not go back into the building until the environment has been declared safe by an authority, either your safety team or the fire service team. You know, do not go back into the building until it is established that it is safe to do so. Now, how can you use a fire extinguisher? How? Number one, we use, there's an acronym we call PASS, P-A-S-S. So there's always a pin on the fire extinguisher. The pin is like your key to your door. You have a pin in place to prevent accidental discharge. So you need to unlock the fire extinguisher by pulling out the pin before you can press the handle. And until you press the handle is when the content will come out. So you need to pull out the pin, which is what the P means. A is aim at the base of the fire. Aim at the base of the fire. So whatever is fueling the fire is at the base of it. So that is where you need to aim and not fighting flame. If you aim it up, you're only fighting flame, you are not fighting the real cause of the fire. Then S is you squeeze the handle, the last S, if the fire has started to spread, you sweep from side to side. That is what PASS is. Now the final rule, please do not be trapped. When you are fighting fire, always ensure that the door is not locked. If you open the door and you don't keep it open, that door can by accident lock. And you know, in physics, we have the laws of expansion and contraction, right? So, and you know the mechanism of your door handle, when it is heated, can be exposed to the law of heat in physics. So you don't want to be trapped in the office. So keep the door open or stay close to the exit. If there's nothing you can use to hold the door, stay close to the exit and ensure the door is open while you are fighting fire. Why? Because you do not want to be trapped. Do everything to ensure that you are not trapped in the building. And about your attitude, you have to be willing to do what it takes not to be a victim of fire. Your safety is more important when you are fighting fire. Remember, no one can keep you safe. You are the only one that can keep yourself safe in such situation. Good housekeeping culture and fire prevention is everybody's responsibility. We don't want our building to turn like this. No. We don't even want it remotely close to this, where fire service will now come, to fight the fire and all that. So with everything that we have discussed here today, I want to leave with this one question. Is our office safe? Is our home safe? It's a form of rhetorical question. Look at it, do your own assessments, do your own evaluation, and come up with your own response. If it is safe, God bless you. If it is not, then you need to begin to take steps towards ensuring it is safe. Fire is a good servant, but a bad master. So we must always keep fire under our control. A prepared organization is a safe organization. Like I promised you, thank God there was no turbulence and we have landed safely our plane. Thank you very much, everyone. I see you at the top. I hope that I've been able to communicate. I'll hand over to the moderator now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I know that that's something that if we had to pay for your time, we'll pay loads and loads of naira. But we are grateful for the presentation. So due to the amount of time that we have, we'll only be able to take 3 questions. And I know that there was a question I saw earlier in the chat box by Princess. How does one determine the origin and spread of a fire? That's the first question that we have. So you can just provide the answer while I look out for the next question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. How does one determine the origin and spread of fire? Okay, so I said earlier, right? It is not in every case. As a matter of fact, in few cases is where you will see where the fire started from. You probably just saw smoke and that attracted you to the fire. The smoke is what will communicate to you that something is wrong, and then you go and you see what is burning. However, we've talked about the different classes of fire, right? You have a class A, B, C. So if the fire is burning in the kitchen, right? If it is the gas, it's not even going to start from the incipient stage and growing and growing. It's going to be like an explosion already. So that tells you it is the gas. Right? If it is in the living room where you have your furniture, your television and all that, it either started from your socket or extension, So these are the ways that you can assume. But like I said, whichever way or whichever manner you want to approach the fire to put it off, the first step is to go to your electricity, your changeover, and turn off electricity. That's the first step. Right? Assume that it is an electrical fire. Assume that it is an electrical fire. Now, if it's in your generator area where it started from, so it's most likely your petrol or the generator that, got defective while it is working and started to burn and all. So the environment where the fire starts will tell you the class of the fire it is anyway. So it can also communicate or help you to determine how best to approach it. But please, whichever, always remember, take out electricity source first. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We have another question from Faith Iseme. She said, a nice presentation, but can you still speak on RACE, the acronym?
Okay. So let me go there. So RACE is an acronym, not to pick race, right? So number 1 is to rescue. Rescue. So rescue means that there's somebody who has been incapacitated. They are not like you that can walk away towards safety to the muster point. So either an infant, a child that has to crawl or something, or children can be distracted. So, or somebody who is heavily pregnant and you know that they are not walking, the way they are walking, you see that they are be labored. You can put your hand, their hand across your own neck and just help them evacuate. Somebody who has slumped and is unconscious. So these are the different categories of people that requires, your rescue. So that is what R means. R means to rescue somebody who cannot rescue themselves, from the environment where the fire is burning. Secondly, if you go to some banks, they have crèche, right? Yes, they made provision for somebody who will help them evacuate, the children from the crèche. The children of the staff are the people who they keep in the crèche. Those children need rescuing. That is why they have put some people there. You see some aunties there with the children. They are meant to, so your emergency response plan also includes how to help the people who you, in quotes, refer to as helpless. Okay, so that is what rescue is. Not only when somebody is or has fainted or has gone unconscious should you activate rescue. There are people who also need rescuing even when they are still breathing. Okay, secondly is to raise alarm, is the alert. Alert people if you are the first person to identify the fire. If you are the first person to see that the fire has started, raise alarm, either through your fire alarm system or you use your voice. Let people be aware. The third is to contain the fire. Remember, oxygen is one of the 3 components that cause fire to burn. So you want to limit the inflow of oxygen into the fire as much as possible, which of course we called smothering method, right? So when you are evacuating an office or a building, what you need to do is to shut all the windows, close the door behind you. What you are doing is that any avenue that oxygen can come into the office or your room through, you have locked them. And what eventually happens is that eventually the fire will consume the oxygen in the room and will be left with none, or will be left with what is not abundant enough to fuel, to help it to keep burning. So eventually it will turn into smoke. Okay, so it's a way to also help contain the fire. And that is why we say C is contain. And of course, E can mean different things for different categories of people. There's a category of people who do not know how to fight fire or use fire extinguisher. E for them is to evacuate the building. For those who know how to fight fire, the fire marshal, the staff who have been trained and all that, you know how to fight fire, you can use a fire extinguisher, and you are bold enough to do it. E for you means extinguish. And I hope that is clear again. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And the last question is from Yahaya Shuaibu. Please, I need clarification on Class C fire. What class of fire does combustible gases belong to? And that's
okay, thank you very much. So that is a Class B. That is Class B. So combustible gases fall under Class B, the same category where you have diesel, kerosene, petrol, and the likes. So that is Class B. For Class C is electricity. Now I'm using NFPA, National Fire Protection Association standard, and that is Class C electricity by that standard. Thank you.
all right. Thank you very much, sir. I know that if we had more time, we would have had loads and loads of questions, but it's weekend and we all have activities and the time is fast spent. So I'll be calling on Dr. Monica Wosu to make the presentation of your certificate. Thank you once again for spending your time with us.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Monica Wosu.
Dr. Monica is my leader. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Wow. Good morning, Engineer Nee. Good morning to all the distinguished leaders on this call. You would agree with me that it has been like a fire safety school. You took it from the very beginning to the very end, It was like fire safety course 101 to fire safety course 501. Thank you so much. for doing justice to that presentation. When I saw your name, Engineer Nee, I had no doubt, honestly, that this is actually what I expected, and I was not disappointed. Well done. Well done. And then something you said that caught my attention. You said, may our loyalty not be tested when we see fire. So what will we choose? And it's actually food for thought for us, because we see a lot of persons that even in the face of their lives, they risk their life to scoop for even at the risk of their life. Showing that generally our risk perception in this country is very low. So I would really employ all of us professionals on this call to take this message further. Let it go viral in our different communities, such that people are aware. As safety professional, we have gained so much. People are aware, and people really know what to do when they are faced with such. There's a lot of ignorance and lack of awareness generally in our communities and our society at large. Thank you so much, Engineer Nee. On behalf of the leadership of the American Society of Safety Professionals, and by extension, the WISE community, that is Women in Safety Excellence, particularly on behalf of the administrator, Professor Cynthia Obiora, and the executive, and of course, the president of Nigerian chapter, Mr. Banwo, we want to say thank you so much. We appreciate you. And the certificate is not showing right now, but I'm sure that leadership would send you the certificate once we have it. We want to really appreciate you for taking our time to really indeed talk about the strategies of how to, manage or prevent fire. We want to say thank you. And like Bukola would say, we are like Olivers. We would always want some more. I have no doubt that we will call on you very soon again to share your knowledge with us once again. Thank you so much. And I want to really appreciate everyone on this call, particularly all the leaders that have made our time to be here. Thank you. This has actually been a very worthwhile time to spend, a very wonderful way to spend our Saturday morning. Thank you so much for taking our time to really share your wealth of knowledge with us. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. God bless you and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, our leaders. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And your certificate will be sent to you. I think we're having some network glitches, so that's why we couldn't display it. But your certificate will be sent to you. So I'll be calling on. All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I'll be calling on our Nigeria chapter secretary or any representative of our ASSP Nigeria chapter to give us updates from ASSP. Thank you. Hello, is our president still online?
They're not too.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I don't know, moderator, if
we are still online.
Ian was having a little bit of network challenge. So he said, like
Okay.
he's having network challenge, so maybe we could skip that. What do you think?
Okay, so I think wise administrator, you can go ahead with your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, our beautiful and very capable moderator, Buki. She's always a pleasure to work with. It's always a pleasure to work with you. I want to use this very time to thank everyone. I mean, everyone that took time out to hang out with us this morning. I mean, you could have done something different your Saturday morning. You could decide to just stay in bed and just be lazy, or find yourself in another activity or the other, but you took time out to join us in this webinar. I mean, I noticed, I say that even our regulators were not left out, and we quite appreciate you, SARS and Ma, for joining us in this webinar. I see some of our professors. Thank you very much for joining. I see our GG for Safer Global Institute, Dr. Wilson Aripo. I see him, he's here. Sir, thank you very, very much for taking out time to join us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much, dear. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. I see a lot of the big juggernauts in the ISPON cadre. I want to say thank you very much. We do not take your presence for granted. In fact, it's really a honor and a privilege to see that you could set aside time to join us for this webinar. And I want to say something. Remember, Engineer Olali said something, that fire is a good servant, but a very terrible master. So I need us to take that, one of the things to take home from this webinar. Indeed, you could control fire. Indeed, you could, in fact, you could do every other thing if you are the master of fire. But guess what? If fire becomes the master, it's another ball game altogether. Even as we're going to go through the festive period and the holidays and all, let's be mindful. Let's take whatever it is we've learned from this webinar. Let's take it and begin to practicalize it, and let's be impactful in our life, and upgrade our life even more. And I want to also, once again, even though our own able Dr. Monica had thanked the presenter, I want to thank the presenter once again, Engineer Olani. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting to share from your wealth of knowledge. I mean, you are a master of what you have just discussed. Be sure that we'll reach out to you, and this collab is just beginning. The romance has just started. Thank you so much, sir. I want to really appreciate the house. Thank you for finding time. Thank you for making time. The able ESCOs that are working with me tirelessly. Her Royal Highness herself, Buki Nola Ayo, and Ujunwa, the queen, herself, the daughter of the king. Thank you all, Ujunwa Okeke. Thank you for working tirelessly behind the scene to make sure that this webinar is delivered. And indeed, it's delivered. And for everyone that has joined, I want to say thank you very much. We're going to reach out to you again for you to join us in another rich webinar uploading. And we want to wish you a very wonderful weekend. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Prof, can I just share something before we go, Prof?
Okay,
oh, sorry.
sir.
Can I just share something before we go?
Okay, sir.
Okay, since
can you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
This is the treasurer, Gbagbeke Joseph.
Oh, okay. The ESCO is here.
Okay, I was actually waiting for the president to make a comment, or maybe to share with us for what we have for us. I also happen to be a member of the PDC 2025. So the call for papers have been published in our website. We want every one of us to take advantage of the various subtopics, and then maybe launch and develop the abstracts and be submitted to our chairman for the PDC team. This is the person of Dr. John Jia. I think we can always reach him if we have any concern or any question to ask. I just feel that you share this with us before we actually go away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if
Thank
you get what I said.
Yes, we heard of the
Okay, thank you.
ASSP Nigerian chapter PDC conference that is coming up next year, I suppose. And yes, I believe that they've heard what you said concerning the call for paper. We will follow suit with the instruction, and we post and recirculate this information in our various medium. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the update. So if it's convenient for us, we can put on our cameras for the pictures before we call it a day. Thank you.
Just before that, sorry, Ebu moderator. I know that for WSO, there's a webinar coming up this evening, and it's quite an impactful and power-packed webinar that will be delivered by the president of World Safety Organization himself. The time for this webinar will be 5 p.m. I will encourage us to join. I believe that our life will be better off for it. Thank you. I believe it's camera time. The moderator said we should come on so that we can be captured for camera, and then
Okay, Dr. Cynthia, this is Abanum here. I've taken the shots of the slides.
or confirm you've taken the photo.
Yeah,
Is that what you say?
Yes,
Oh.
let me do another round of shots. I've seen some good faces. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So I think at this point, at this
Thank
junction,
you.
over to you, our moderator, please.
Thank you, everyone, for spending your morning with us. And we look forward to seeing you. And then the emerging professionals will be having a webinar next week, same time. And it's still going to be another exciting topic and impactful topic too. So we look forward to seeing you there again. And with this, I will say that my duty as the moderator is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our ever moderator. You did well.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Binani, thank you. Prof, thank you very much. God bless you real good.
Yeah,
7:30 today, the CNG time. 7:30 p.m. CNG time. So much to talk about CNG today. But it's a wonderful
Gigi. Hey, my double prof. Double prof, I think we had a limitation on number of people. I think it was 100. So when we got to 100, a lot of people were finding it difficult to join. We will rectify that so that subsequently it will be open house for as many as can join. And that was the root cause of the problem of you trying to join.
You. So and because of this, along in fact, regulation, but I made sure that the last was